Hi, this is Brian Kim. I'm going to share with you how to properly place the chopper for double chop, cross chop, and mechanical fracturing. And so one of the criticisms I hear is, oh, that chopper looks so dangerous. You're placing it out there. You might rip the zonules or the bag. I'm going to prove to you that this is not a dangerous technique. In fact, it's actually a safer technique because I can guarantee that I'm going to be between the endonucleus and epinucleus every time when I place the chopper. And if I'm between the endonucleus and epinucleus, I'm definitely only chopping the endonucleus. I am not chopping the epinucleus. If I'm not chopping the epinucleus, that means I'm not so far peripheral in the capsular bag to involve the epinucleus. Therefore, I'm not near the capsular bag. There's very little risk that I'm going to damage the capsular bag because when I place the chopper out to the equator, I'm going within the epinucleus space. And I can prove this because at the end of the case, you will see there will be an intact epinuclear shell. Therefore, I have not touched the epinucleus. Therefore, I did not go peripheral enough to the epinuclear layer. Therefore, I definitely did not approach or touch the capsule at all during these maneuvers. So one way to make sure that you create a separation between the endonucleus and the epinucleus is to perform hydrodelineation. Now, I don't perform hydrodelineation, but I think if you're a beginner, it makes a lot of sense. But you've seen my technique. I do a capsular fornix hydrodissection. I place a cannula out to the equator, point the tip down, and I get a nice fluid wave. I decompress to the left, and I spin the lens to the right. It seems when performing the double chop and cross chop, the chopping forces naturally create a separation plane between the epinucleus and the endonucleus. So I lift the incision with the chopper and go in with irrigation off. I'm removing the surface epinuclear material. Removing the central surface epinuclear material provides that landmark and platform to determine where and how deep I'm going to slide the chopper out. And this guarantees I'm underneath the epinuclear material. So you see that red ridge. I'm going to maintain the flat position of the chopper. I'm going to place it on the surface of the endonucleus, and I'm going to slide it out peripherally, making sure the chopper is underneath that epinuclear ridge. And as you can see, it's going to slide out. It's underneath the epinuclear ridge, and I place the chopper onto the equator. This makes sure I'm definitely between the epinucleus and the endonucleus. So you can see the chopper curved very nicely with the double chop. I'm showing this in slow motion. I'm placing the phaco tip vertically, and both instruments are sliding centrally, and it fractures the lens completely in half. The chopper is supporting the lens material slightly from below, and I'm pushing down into the lens of the material with the phaco tip, and I'm stabbing the lens with the phaco tip, bringing both instruments together and crushing the lens in half. Now I'm going to perform the cross chop maneuver. You can see the flat orientation of the chopper. I'm going to slide it out. I'm pushing down on the endonucleus, and I'm going to slide it past the epinuclear ridge. I'm making sure the chopper is underneath the epinuclear ridge. Rotate the chopper down, and then pull the chopper centrally towards the phaco tip, and this crushes the right heminucleus, fracturing the right heminucleus in half. And then I'm using the chopper and phaco tip, sandwiching the lens pieces between the chopper and the phaco tip, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. I'm going after the second quadrant. You can see the flat orientation of the chopper on the surface of the endonucleus. I'm going to slide it peripherally, making sure that the chopper is against the endonucleus, and it will go underneath the epinuclear ridge. I rotate the chopper, tip points downward, and you can see I was able to prolapse that lens piece very nicely into the central safe zone, and then I start crushing the lens pieces between the chopper and the phaco tip, and then emulsifying the lens pieces using a little bit of vacuum. So now I'm going to rotate the lens in front of me, and you can see I'm going to be using opposing forces. I'm going to pull the phaco tip to the left, and I'm going to pull the chopper to the right, and this ensures I'm going to stay flat to the endonuclear surface, slide it out past the epinuclear ridge, and then I'm going to try to crush the lens between the chopper and the phaco tip. But I want you to notice something here. As I pull that heminucleus centrally, look at that natural cleavage plane between the epinucleus and the endonucleus. As I pull that chopper, it grabbed the endonucleus, but it left the epinucleus in place. And so, like I said before, doing these chopping maneuvers, it does create a natural cleavage plane between the endonucleus and the epinucleus, even though I did not perform hydrodelineation. So now I use successive mechanical fracturing forces, crushing the lens pieces between the chopper and the figure tip. You can see that I'm primarily using vacuum to remove the lens pieces without much ultrasonic energy. This is the last quadrant. You can see I have a flat orientation of the chopper. I'm pushing down on the endonucleus and gliding it past the epinuclear ridge. You can see that epinuclear ridge is there. As I pull that down, again, you can see that nice cleavage plane between the endonucleus and the epinucleus. As I pull that endonucleus centrally, it causes a split between the epinucleus and the endonucleus. And lo and behold, after I remove that last fragment of endonucleus, you can see there's a very thick and intact epinuclear shell. So I think that doing the double chop and cross chop and mechanical fracturing forces, as you can see, if I'm chopping the endonucleus only by placing the chopper between the endonucleus and the epinucleus, this causes an intact epinuclear shell. And as a result, I feel like this is a very safe and simple and straightforward technique. As long as you're placing the chopper in the correct orientation, it is very safe. It is away from the capsular bag, and you should not cause a capsular tear, nor should you cause a zonular dialysis by accidentally being outside of the bag, because again, you are underneath the epinuclear ridge every time you do the chop maneuver. So utilizing the epinuclear ridge as a landmark will really help the beginning surgeon perform double chop and cross chop. As you become more advanced, you won't need the epinuclear ridge as the landmark to do the double chop and cross chop maneuver. So I hope this was helpful and educational to you. Please like and subscribe, and I thank you for your attention.